All right, YouTube, Ermin here once again with another SAS video. This time I wanted to talk about the length statement. So throughout my teaching career online, I've actually had quite a few questions about the length statement, and it is a bit tricky. The first thing to know is you're using the length statement to store data or values in a certain kind of way. It's really done for efficiency purposes, right? So if you're dealing with very big data sets, you want to store what you need and not store what you obviously don't need. So you've got your numeric variables and you've got your character variables. So it works slightly different with both of these. So when it comes to your numeric variables, like for example, age, BMI, as is the case in this data set I have on the screen for you. Let me actually just go ahead and run it so you can see the data here. And you can see here, obviously, age would be numeric, BMI, children variable, and the charges one. So the question then is, how is this being stored here? Well, the default length of numeric variables in SAS datasets is 8 bytes. So what the heck does that mean? Well, some people think that it means that it stores up to 8 decimal points of something. Some people believe that it means just like it will store 8 digits, so a number that has 8 digits to it. And actually both of those are false. So the length by default, as I said, is 8 bytes. And what that represents is the largest integer that can be represented exactly. And this is, we're talking about, I think, in the trillions. So that a number can be represented when you're using 8 bytes, which, as I said, is the default. The lowest amount of bytes for numeric variables is 3. So 3 bytes. And the largest integer that you can represent exactly is 8,192. So literally up to that number. So can you think of a scenario, of course, where you would need to only use 3 bytes? Well, often you're using dummy variables in your data where you're storing things as just a 0 or a 1. Well, there's no reason to use the default, which is 8 bytes. You can use 3 bytes. Now, while we don't have the exact same situation for our data set, we have a very similar situation where we can actually apply this, because if you take a look at example, our age column or variable here, well, ages are only going to go up to presumably 125, maybe 130. And of course, depending on whatever you're studying, it's not going to go usually up to that level. So you can certainly then use 3 bytes in that case. So let me show you how to do that. So your length statement goes right up here, length, and then you just say the variable or the column, and then you just do 3 for 3 bytes. And then we run that. Are you going to see any difference in the data set? Well, you certainly shouldn't. As you see here, the ages are displaying as they should. However, if you want to see that you actually made this change in the background, you can do proc contents, data equals, so the name of the data set, and then just run. And if I run that, you will see right down here, age, type, numeric, length, len, 3. You'll notice that the other ones are 8, even the character variables. Now, that is actually by coincidence for the character variables. The default for numeric is 8, but it is not for character variables. So the way that it works for character variables is that SAS determines the length of the variable from its first occurrence in the data step. So there's a possibility then that you can have data that can be truncated. So this would be the scenario right here in our data set where you see, if you look at region, it's not showing Southwest is missing the T, southeast is missing the T, and so forth. So you can fix this. So, we could say 9 or 10 for, let's say, the region. So let's try region 9, or maybe let's say 10 and see how that works. Whoops. Okay. What did I forget here, folks? Another learning opportunity, right? Well, this is a character variable, right? So it does need that $sign. And here we are. And you'll notice now that it's fine. So you'll notice right here that we now have the T, and it's showing up perfectly fine. Okay. So bottom line, look out for any truncated data. You don't want that. Fix it with a length statement. And when you don't need to use resources, when you don't need to store something with 8 bytes when it's a numeric variable, make that change. It's worth it, especially if you're working with large data sets. Thanks.